Good morning, welcome back. I'm going to show you this morning how to plant your indoor greens. Dr. Anne Wigmore called them that because it allows us to have continuous supplies of little salad greens, that is sunflowers and small buckwheat plants, as well as wheatgrass, and you can have those all the year round. So the first thing to look at is the quality of the compost that you're using. Those of you who are gardeners know that it's important to make your own compost. If not, you can buy it in. But if you buy it in, then it's a good idea to enrich it with some seaweed meal or some kelp powder before you actually plant your seeds on it. So another consideration, because you're going to have these trays indoors at some point, you want to have a gravel tray, not a seed tray. Because when you water, if you have the muddy water dripping through, you really don't want that in your kitchen. So we plant in gravel trays, and that means we have to be a bit more careful about the amount of water that goes in. So having filled the trays and just roughly levelled the surface by tapping and shaking the tray, not patting it down. We don't want to compact the soil because we want the seeds to be able to make their way, roots make their way down into the material easily without obstruction. So the first thing to do before we plant the seeds is to just gently moisten the surface of the soil. And that's all they need, just a little bit of a spray. We don't want to get it too wet at all. Here are the seeds that we're going to plant. You notice that I use very easily obtainable equipment, sweetie jars and just a garden trough to put. You don't need fancy equipment at all. But the first one that I'm going to do is the sunflowers. And if you look here, they're eager to plant. You can see that they're just nicely germinated, just perfectly germinated in fact. And what I'm going to do is just spread some of them on a couple of trays. And then just spread them. They're not too thickly planted, but you want to have enough in your tray. So just spread them with the back of your fingers. Then we put on top of them an upturned gravel tray. The reason for that is that as the seeds grow, they will breathe, they will respire. So when there is some moisture coming up from the seeds, the water vapour will condense on the inside of this tray and go back down into the tray and create exactly the right little humid, draft-proof mini environment for them. So we leave them like that for about 4 days before taking the lid off. They should then be established, well-grown little shoots, and that's when they get their first watering. So we'll just do the same thing with some buckwheat. Are you familiar with buckwheat seeds? These little triangular, jewel-like seeds. And again, it's exactly the same process. Just shake them onto the tray. Spread them with the back of your fingers so you don't get soil mixed up on them. And again, cover them. The final one, of course, is the wheatgrass. Now for this, I'm using spelt wheat. You can use the straightforward winter wheat, any wheat grain that you can get hold of, in fact. Obviously it's better to be organic, but we like to use the spelt wheat particularly. It's a lovely old variety and you get the most gorgeous tasting wheatgrass from this. Because the seed coats are rather bulky, we tend to plant these rather more thickly. Same process. Stroke them with the back of your fingers. Give them a hat. Leave them for about 4 days, a little bit longer if it's cold. Then take the lids off, give them a good watering, and then bring them into the daylight. They need to make chlorophyll, so they'll change from little yellow shoots into lovely dark green ones. And then if you come back when they're fully grown, I'll show you how to use them. We'll make one of Dr. Anne's classic energy soups and maybe 1 or 2 variations on that theme. So that will be the next video.